Lesson 3. Essential question. How are plants sorted into groups? Georgia Fast Fact. A blanket of white. The earliest evidence of cotton crops dates back nearly 7,000 years. Cotton has only been in Georgia for a little over 200 years. The fluffy part used to make cloth surrounds the seeds. That part of the plant is known as the boll, or seed case. In the Investigate, you'll study roots and other parts of plants. Vocabulary Preview. Non-vascular plant. A plant without transport tubes to carry water and nutrients throughout the plant. Page 296. Vascular plant. A plant with tubes to carry nutrients and water throughout the plant. Page 297. Xylem. Vascular tissue that carries water and nutrients from roots to the other parts of a plant. Page 297. Phloem. Vascular tissue that carries food from leaves to the other parts of a plant. Page 297. Gymnosperm. A vascular plant that produces seeds that are not surrounded by a fruit. Page 298. Angiosperm. A flowering plant whose seeds are surrounded by fruit. Page 299. Investigate. Vascular plant parts. Guided inquiry. Start with questions. There are many different types of plants, but most have the same basic parts, such as leaves, stems, flowers, and roots. How do roots help a plant survive? What do leaves look like up close? Investigate to find out. Then read to learn more. Prepare to investigate. Inquiry skill tip. When you infer, you draw conclusions about your observations. You should also use information you already know, but make sure that all of your facts are accurate. Materials. Potted plant. Newspaper. Ruler. Hand lens. Make an observation chart. Follow this procedure. 1. Hold the potted plant upside down over the newspaper. Tap the pot gently until the plant comes out. Shake the soil from the roots so you can see them clearly. 2. Observe the leaves of the plant. Measure and calculate their average length and width. Use the hand lens to observe the leaves more closely. Record your observations. 3. Observe the stem. Use the hand lens to see it in more detail. Does it bend? Does it have branches? Record your observations. 4. Observe the roots. Notice their shape. Measure and calculate their average length. Use the hand lens to observe them more closely. Record your observations. 5. Make a drawing of the plant. Label all the parts. 6. Put the soil and the plant back into the pot and water the plant lightly. Draw conclusions. 1. What did you observe about each part of the plant? 2. Standards link. What types of plants would you classify with this one? 3. Inquiry skill. What can you infer about the functions of roots, stems, and leaves? Independent inquiry. Look at a carrot that has its leaves attached. Compare it to the potted plant. Draw a picture of a carrot growing in soil. Understand science. Vocabulary. Non-vascular plant, page 296. Vascular plant, page 297. Xylem, page 297. Phloem, page 297. Gymnosperm, page 298. Angiosperm, page 299. Science concepts. How non-vascular plants get water and nutrients. How the parts of vascular plants function. Focus skill. Main idea and details. Look for plant structures and how they function. Non-vascular and vascular plants. Have you ever seen a rock or log covered with a moist, velvety green plant? What you've seen isn't really one plant, but many tiny moss plants. Mosses are non-vascular plants. Non-vascular plants don't have true roots, but they are anchored in the ground by small root-like structures. They have parts that look like stems, but they aren't true stems, and they have small, leaf-like structures that make food, but they aren't true leaves because they don't have veins. Non-vascular plants don't have any tissue for carrying materials throughout the plant. Non-vascular plants absorb water and nutrients from their surroundings. Water in the plants carries food and nutrients directly from cell to cell. Because of this, the plants cannot grow very tall. With their small size, they can absorb enough water to carry materials throughout the plants. When there is not enough water, a non-vascular plant such as moss quickly dries out and turns brown. When it rains, many mosses turn green again. Trees, like the one shown here, are more complex than mosses. Trees belong to a group called vascular plants. Vascular plants have tissue that supports the plants and carries water and food. Roots, stems, and leaves all contain vascular tissue. There are two types of vascular tissue. Xylem carries water and nutrients from roots to other parts of a plant. Phloem carries food from leaves to the rest of the plant. With these tissues, vascular plants are not dependent on water moving to nearby cells only, as in mosses. Vascular plants vary more than non-vascular plants. They include tiny duckweed, a fraction of an inch long, and giant redwood trees. They also include cacti that grow in deserts with little water and orchids that grow in damp rainforests. Focus skill, main idea and details. What does each type of vascular tissue do? If you look at moss with a hand lens, you can see individual moss plants. The plants grow close to a surface, allowing all their cells to receive water and nutrients. Mosses grow on rocks, on trees, and in other places where they can absorb nutrients and moisture. Xylem cells in the trunk of a tree transport water. Phloem cells, just under the bark, transport food. Each year, new layers of xylem and phloem cells grow. You can tell the age of a tree by counting the rings of xylem. Seed-bearing plants. Have you ever seen a pine tree with cones hanging from its branches? If so, you were looking at a vascular plant that grew from a seed. The cones you saw probably contained seeds. Seeds enable plants to grow in many environments. Unlike seedless plants, seed plants don't need water for fertilization. The seeds of pines are considered naked because they are protected only by a seed coat. This is in contrast to seeds that are protected inside a fruit. A plant that produces naked seeds is a gymnosperm. You might have seen male pine cones covered with yellow pollen. Pollen contains sperm. Female cones are larger and grow high on trees above the male cones. Ovules grow on the scales of female cones. Ovules contain eggs. Mature male cones release millions of pollen grains. They look like a golden dust cloud as they're blown by the wind. Some pollen settles on ovules. Sperm from the pollen fertilize the eggs, and then seeds develop. When the seeds are mature, the cone scales separate, and the seeds, which have wings, travel on the wind. If a seed lands in a suitable habitat, a new tree begins to grow, then a new life cycle begins. Gymnosperms are very different from flowering plants, such as apple trees. Apple trees have flowers instead of cones. Flowers produce seeds inside fruit. A flowering plant which has seeds protected by a fruit is classified as an angiosperm. Seed development is more complex in angiosperms. Their protected seeds have made it possible for angiosperms to live in nearly all parts of the world. Focus skill, main idea and details. How are gymnosperm seeds and angiosperm seeds different? How are they alike? Instalab, cool beans. Your teacher will give you a bean that has been soaking in water. The bean is a seed. Take it out of the water and break it open. Observe it with a hand lens. Hypothesize how the parts of the seed help it grow. Pollen is produced in male cones. Ovules are produced at the bases of the scales in female cones, shown here. After fertilization, seeds develop on the scales. Math in science. Interpret data. Numbers of plant species. This circle graph shows the number of species of flowering plants compared to the number of all other plant species. What might you infer from the data about the success of flowering plants compared to other types of plants? Comparing types of plants. When a fruit tree is in bloom, insects go to it and pollinate the flowers. Sperm in the pollen of one flower can fertilize the eggs in other flowers. The eggs become seeds, and the flowers grow fruit around them. GPS wrap-up and lesson review. Essential question. How are plants sorted into groups? In this lesson, you learned that plants, like other organisms, can be classified into groups. Scientists can classify them by tissues or by seeds and fruits. Science Spin from Weekly Reader. Technology. Farms of the future. Could you grow a garden in your bathroom? Is it possible to have a farm without soil? It might sound like something from the future, but that kind of growing is happening today with hydroponic farming. Hydroponics is the growing of plants with nutrient-rich solutions. Growing in water. Hydroponic farming has been around for many years, but researchers are now using hydroponics to develop new techniques to grow food quickly in an environmentally safe way. With hydroponics, plant roots grow directly in water and are supported by materials such as peat moss, sand, or gravel. Nutrients are added to the water to imitate the nutrients plants would normally get out of soil. Soil is not needed, and hydroponic plants grow about twice as fast as plants grown in soil. New techniques. Today, researchers are finding new ways to use hydroponics. Scientists in New Mexico, for example, are showing that hydroponics can work in a desert environment while growing alfalfa plants. Scientists have shown that less water is needed to grow hydroponic food than to grow the same amount of food in common soil. That is important because in many parts of the world, water is hard to find. Hydroponic farming is also helping Florida's beaches. When hurricanes hit Florida, they erode the sand on the beaches. Researchers grow plants called sea oats hydroponically and then transplant the sea oats to beaches. The sea oats trap sand and help restore beaches. Because hydroponic plants grow very quickly, researchers can grow and replant the sea oats as a way to preserve beaches. Healthier growing? Many researchers and hydroponic farmers believe that hydroponics is the farming method of the future. In addition to saving water, hydroponically farmed fruits and vegetables are healthier to eat because the plants receive a well-balanced diet in their water. The nutrient-filled water helps give the fruits and vegetables vitamins and minerals, which are passed on to people who eat them. Fruits and vegetables grown in soil get their nutrients from the land, but pollution and chemicals in the soil can limit the amount of nutrients the plants receive. Think about it. 1. How are hydroponic plants and plants grown in soil different? 2. Do you think hydroponic plants might taste different from plants grown in soil? Why or why not? Growing and packing hydroponic lettuce. Spin in. Find out more. Log on to www.hspscience.com.